Let's check out where we are before we get started. I'm going to list the App-Redo network security policy, the external networks, and then the OpenShift Kubernetes network security policy. Next, I'm going to copy the sample QuickStart policy from the workshop repository. See the link below if you need to find it, and paste it verbatim into my project. Before I apply my new policy, I'm going to remove my custom App-Redo NSP. I find the less policy I have, the easier it is to understand and debug. Now I'll copy the command from the QuickStart guide and, after changing the path, paste and run it to apply my new policy. The final step is to have a look at my App-Redo network security policy and external networks, as well as my new OpenShift Kubernetes network policy. Here's a pro tip. Because Kubernetes network policy is packaged with OpenShift, you can view it in the web console. Now let's take a look at writing custom network security policy. For this example, we're going to focus on the purple arrows. The first policy we're going to write is a default deny all. It's going to create the walled garden. That's the red border around all of your pods, protecting your namespace. The second policy we're going to write is to allow traffic to come in from the OpenShift routers. This will make your routes work. The third policy is going to allow the API to talk to the database cluster. And the final policy is to allow the database cluster to talk amongst itself for replication. Okay, let's get started. We're going to use the QuickStart policy as our base. We're going to keep the default deny all and the allow from the OpenShift routers. We will, however, delete the allow all internal. This allows all pods in the namespace to talk to each other. For now, we're going to keep the App-Redo NSP also, at least until App-Redo is removed from the system. What I'm going to do now is copy a policy from the sample that's included with the workshop repository. Let me clean this up a little bit before we continue. I'll remove this label, change the name to be more meaningful to this policy, and fix the description. Let's flip back to the network diagram and check out what labels we have to work with. The two I'm going to use for this policy are component equals API for the API pod and stateful set equals registry patroni for the database cluster. Since this label applies to all the pods in my database cluster, it won't matter which one the API is connected to. It'll just work. Let's update the label for the destination pod selector. The source pod label is already set for me, leaving only the destination port for me to update. To speed things along, I'm going to copy and paste my previous policy and use it as a template for my next one. Once again, I'll update the name, give it a meaningful description, make sure my source and destination labels are what I need them to be. Finally, make sure my destination port is set correctly. I'll run it using the same command I did for the QuickStart tutorial. And that's it. We're done. I'm going to do one last cleanup task, and that is to remove the App-Redo NSP from my network security policy. I'm not going to need that anymore.